Saying having inexperienced people design complex sites. I'm a fan of trial by fires. Trials by fire. There was a big bamboo nursery all through here years and years ago.
Oh yeah?
It's where the Hirose bamboo arose from. It's from Hirose Nursery.
Helping someone establish.
See what's growing here. 2011. The Google Maps satellite image. It says 2011 and it shows papayas in here. So that's what we remember.
That's how fast it
Yeah, this was raised 2011. This is more like 2002.
I know they say albizia grows 16 feet a year.
That's for sure. Well, look at the albizia compared to the melogia.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the one down there.
Yeah.
Now that's the same amount.
Fancy. That makes sense.
Yo.
You let it get wet?
Hey, it's insured.
Do we gather up a little bit?
Said if they sow an
Let's do this quick. Talk very well, but I almost cancelled this meeting yesterday. On Wednesday and Thursday, I thought I was going to die. I was really sick. But I really came out of it today, so I'm really glad that I was able to go through with this, and I can actually talk. I didn't talk for almost 3 days, which was good for everybody around me. And they enjoyed it. So I gave you a little bit of history of me and out there. And for years and years I've had a vision of doing something on a fairly large scale with the former papaya fields. When I first came in 1979, it was very difficult for me not to judge that, not to go into judgment and conflict with it, because it smelled so bad and it was just this. But I gradually got over that and realized that in order to make any kind of difference, then I have to actually do something that's different, rather than complaining or judging something that's going on. So, what's this opportunity now is really about that, about being able to create what's called a learning site. Have anybody heard of Alan Savory? Yep. Now, when Alan Savory first started doing his projects, he called them demonstrations. And he realized that that was kind of putting people off. And it was kind of judgmental that he had it together and they didn't. So he decided to call all his projects then learning sites. So that's what I like to see this as. This is to me it's a collaborative, regenerative agriculture learning site. It's not a demonstration. It's a place where we can all learn together, and whoever gets involved can learn. So that then it's more open to it. They're more inviting the other farmers who still use all chemical fertilizer and pesticides. We're inviting them in to learn as well, because we're just learning. We don't have it together. And I don't want to exclude people with big machinery. I'd like to find a niche in this project for everybody who's already been in farming. Guys with the bulldozers. I don't want a bulldozer anymore, but they could pull a big roller, could do something. So that's just kind of, I really want it to be inclusive. So it's not, so people don't look at this project as something that's taking away from them. It's more going to help them and make it so that they can make a better living or whatever. So, there's really what's going on for me today is to connect with each of you, and not just me to you, but you to everybody else, and to connect and find how this project can serve each of you in your fields of your expertise or your passion or whatever. Because that's so much what it's about to me. This isn't my 60 acres, it's not my farm. I don't even want the farm I've been working on just to be my farm, because it's a bit too much. So, what did I write down for this? I did a look and made a few notes this morning. For you, a portion of it, a portion of this could be dedicated to the agroforestry things that you're up to.
Okay.
So that there'd be a place for that to be demonstrated, a learning site about agroforestry. Because we can't do it all like that, you know, but we can do some of it like that. And then, Drake, your main thing is Korean natural farming, right?
Yeah, of sorts. I got a lot of things going, but that's, yeah.
What are you really, what's your interest mostly in this?
Yeah, biorestoration. So Korean natural farming being...
Oh, that's just a part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're in for the whole thing, like I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we probably all are, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the Korean natural farming, I've been really interested in that ever since it first came to the island. But I just couldn't be bothered to actually do it because I've got so much other stuff going on. So I want to be working with people who are going to make the inputs. And I don't know if you noticed over in the shop there, there's a water tank on a trailer, 1,000 gallons, and it has a fire pump on it, a big long fire hose, and it empties in 22 minutes and shoots the stuff 100 feet. So you can stand in one spot and put whatever liquid inputs, and then move and do some more. So we've got the ideal piece of equipment for spreading the micro. And yes, I just didn't want to overload myself and try and do all that. And the to me, the best place to put those microorganism inputs is underneath a bunch of material, a bunch of mulch, right? They should be in the dark, cool, and lots of air and moisture and all that. So this whole focus on keeping the ground covered with elephant grass mulch or with the sticks from the trees just seems to fit perfectly with the Korean natural farming, with the inputs, because you've got a safe place to put them where they're not going to get killed by the sun, right? I mean, it just makes sense. And then Bruce, I mean, it just seems like an ideal educational opportunity for university.
And a great opportunity as long as it's set up in a way that's statistically valid to get things for research, as far as getting quantitative data. And Mike,
Basically, that's what we need.
yeah.
Reportable.
Yeah, right. And it's not going to be me doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because that's the whole reason it's collaborative.
I'll just tell you a story that yesterday I had the oil palm growers meeting, and my role I had to go to it, and found out that when they handed out all these oil palms, most farmers, they didn't put in like rows of different varieties, like row of variety 1, row of variety 2, row of variety 3, then row of variety 2, 3, 1, like that. They just planted all of one variety along their hillside until they ran out of that variety, and then planted another one. So the one at the bottom of the slope, you don't know if it's doing poorly because everything, all the water collected at the bottom slope, or what, you know, because it's not randomized. So I said, boy, that was just like they had 10,000 oil palms, and none of the farmers randomized them in the fields any. So I said, you can't really call that a variety trial. So it's, I mean, that's just a good example of things with good intentions that they still don't know what varieties of oil palm to recommend.
Right.
Because they didn't do the right kind of setup, yeah.
Luckily, on most of this land, it's all more or less the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah, you don't have that confounding factor of slope position.
well, sometimes we do, but most of it is pretty even. But still, it's so important to do that documentation and correct action, so that the documentation means something. Is what you're saying, right? Now, you can document all you like, but if you didn't do it in a way that it means something, it's useless. Okay. And then, Zach, what's your community college? That,
Yeah, I recently was
and
hired.
yourself?
Pardon?
Or you're not in community college anymore?
I work Monday through Friday for the community college as their sustainability coordinator, which is I'm mainly tasked with creating new courses in various topics that the island needs. And I have a background in landscape design and with an ecological focus.
Right, so for you it'd be, for private you, it'd be helping and being involved in the design of it. And then for the community college you, it would be a place to do courses and...
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Bring students who might be interested in agroforestry trials or natural farming trials.
Right, okay. So that's a brief overview of how you plug into it. And then, Layla, soil, how's a project like this interesting you?
Well, I was kind of hoping to see the taro. I saw that photo of the taro on that sort of created.
Well, still hope for that
And
on the way out.
just trying to put it all together and see how NRCS could help farmers build up their soil with some of our programs. We have cost share programs. So we do have a practice that is called mulching. So if farmers want to build up their organic matter in their soil, they can sign up with our program and we'll cost share in if they start mulching. So if they have weeds coming up or building up the soil organic matter or different various needs, we can help cost share with that. So I'm just
That
trying
sounds
to
good.
understand, all of what is said here, so that I could sort of. But that's what comes to mind first. I'm sure there's other areas that we could help with, but mostly the farmer has to be established. So, for example, if the 65 acres,
60 acres.
60,
Call it 60.
62 or
Well,
62.
Lono
Or
says call
60.
it 60.
60, okay.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, you start farming it, the community starts to farm it, or whoever's gonna do it, and there's a lot of wind, and so maybe some windbreaks might be necessary to help, in the production. If there's avocado or some other fruit trees, whatnot, we could cost share with establishing windbreaks. We could cost share with mulching. So there's a bunch of things that we could help with. It just depends on what you guys what's actually being done. So-
It's all about mulching.
Yeah.
That
So, and my thought is that, if there's a new system that I'm not aware of, and that's being done here, then maybe we can create a new practice that good cost sharing what's happening there. And I don't know yet, so I don't know fully what's actually
Well,
being done,
Let
so.
me give you a brief history of the farm. The farm's 22 acres, and it was the original Richard Ha farm. You guys all know Richard, right? That was his first farm where I am. 60 acres, I only have 22 of it. And so it was chemical farm bananas for a while, and then it went to weed trees kind of, and then it was bulldozed again. Somebody tried to do papayas, and it went to weed trees again, and then we kind of got it and cleaned it up. And I've been growing 22 acres of elephant grass, really, on smooth ground. So I have an 80-horse tractor and a forage harvester from New Zealand, and a 13-yard dump trailer I pull behind. So I can let that elephant grass grow to a year old. I do it in March, usually February, March, when it's woody. And I can drive through it, chop it all up and shoot it into the trailer, and then go dump it where we're going to use it to grow the taro and everything, all that stuff. And the ratio is about, because I do 10 acres harvest for mulch, and then 10 acres over here, or 9 or 10, half for mulch, and then half to itself, like next month. And then next year I'll swap. So actually we're using 20 acres to get 10 acres worth of mulch. And that'll grow an acre and a half, maybe 2 acres of taro. So you're looking at 15 to 1 or 20 to 1, but which is fine. When you combine it with, ta-da, when you combine it with the cattle. Because what we don't want to do is what I've been doing, is just doing elephant grass without the cattle. And I didn't do it because, again, I didn't want to get overwhelmed. But I know that's the next step. So the farm's been producing its own mulch. And as far as I know, I'm still the only person on the island doing it. I'd love it if it wasn't that. I don't want to be that. But I still haven't heard of anybody who's really harvesting their own mulch at that scale. And,
could you share that equation that you told Dana and I of 1 hour per year for the past 10 years have made this?
oh, I was getting to that, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
So that's the mulching aspect of actually taking the, and I'm going to get to you in a minute, you're last on the list, the cattle guy. So the mulching aspect is when we're taking mulch from an area and then using it to mulch the taro and other plants. And several years ago I realized that the mulch in the mala is dry land, right? Not flooded taro. You got lu'i and mala. The mulch in the mala taro field does the same thing as the water in the lu'i, right? Because the water in the lu'i is a weed suppressant. The mulch is a weed suppressant. The water in the lu'i supplies moisture. The mulch keeps the moisture from evaporating. The water in the lu'i brings a little bit of nutrients from the awai and the river, and our mulch provides nutrients. The water in the lu'i provides temperature control because it flows at a particular rate through it. The mulch provides temperature control because it doesn't let the sun shine on the ground. And I don't know how much the water encourages microorganisms, but the mulch certainly does. So the mulch might even be better than the water. Anyway, so it's very much working that way. And then the soil building aspect of it, I chose an area of the farm that we didn't harvest any mulch from. And it was about 50 feet wide and 1,000 feet long along one edge of the farm. And all I did was mow that every March for 10 years, 12 years. I think it was 12. And then we did our usual thing of grinding up the elephant grass with the machine and shooting it onto the ground. And then put weed mat over it for 2 months. It kills the elephant grass. And then go taro in it. And the measurement of that soil was really easy to make. It really easy to take the measurements of what we created. Because in 96, it was bulldozed, level. So that on the top was just all those little rocks with bits of soil in between them. So it was just basically this smooth rock. And we built 3 to 4 inches of the most glorious black organic soil just by mowing elephant grass once a year. So the statistic that she was trying to get me to get out was my tractor can mow 10 acres in a day. So if we can build 3 to 4 inches of topsoil in 10 years, that took 10 days of work. Even without the cattle, because I'm going to get to that now. So even if you just leave it alone and mow it once a year, you can build that topsoil. And with 10 days work on 10 acres, you can build 10 acres of beautiful topsoil. The only downside to that is the bank, the mortgage, the lease. It's all about money. But there's no work to it. And nature's saying, okay, this is good. So what I hear is, well, you can't afford to do that. And I couldn't really, but I did. Because that's my passion, right? So the cattle are so crucial to this whole elephant grass thing. Because as long as we have enough acreage, which 20 is not enough, unless you just have 1 or 2. But once we get into several hundred acres of elephant grass that's really well managed, with some permanent fencing and mostly electric fencing, all kinds of things to research and develop on that. But basically what we're saying is, if elephant grass grows as tall as this ceiling and bigger for a year or 2, and then you come along and roll it or mow it or whatever, just get it down. I kind of fancy the big roller myself with a V shape to it. You just drag it through there with a big loader or something. Smash it all down. And then when it's this high, you can fatten cattle on it. You know, and it's not just elephant grass, it has other stuff in with it. So if the cattle move through there in the intensive mob grazing methods, where they just moved very, very often, and you're familiar totally with that, right? Then the cattle are going to enhance the fertility even more. They're going to build more soil, it's going to be more fertile. And even if that's all we did, just grow hundreds of acres of elephant grass, do the cattle mob grazing thing, we'd have lots and lots of mulch. We'd be building good soil. And this is the punchline here of this whole thing, is that when the cattle people are separated from the crop people have got to buy fertilizer. And right now they buy it from somewhere on the mainland or whatever, and they need their pesticides and everything. They're stuck over here, and the cattle guys are over here. And sure, they can do all kinds of different things, from severe overgrazing to wonderful intensive management mob grazing, and anywhere in between. But they're out over here on their own, and the crop people are over here. So what I'm seeing for what I'd like to demonstrate on this project, and the 60 acres is pretty small for it. That's why I'm interested in the 500. Because we could demonstrate mixing that up so that the cattle, goats, pigs, whatever, so the animals are managed so that they can create fertility, excuse me, this is difficult, and a weed-free environment in combination with mulch, but that the cattle can create the fertility, the animals can, for the crop people. And, you know, I've no idea quite how that's going to work. I'm sorry, I have lots of ideas, but I'm not saying, okay, I know how to do it. So this is where the cattle come in, and what are your thoughts?
Well, the ideas are on track of what natural farming tries to do, because without the animals you don't have an organic system. And we're trying to keep the system closed and alive, and that we don't have to bring in any inputs from the mainland. And try and create something that everybody can make themselves, something that is non-toxic, that kids can handle. In fact, Tuesday I'm off to the Department of Education to give a talk on natural farming, so that they can implement natural farming into their STEM program, to show that agriculture is playing a vital part on sustainability in the state of Hawaii. But we need to educate the kids where the food comes from. Brother Drake has been doing an unreal job out at the school he's working at. And the reason why they called us in to go to the Department of Education was I just did a poultry workshop in Honolulu. And I mean, we were only supposed to have 20 people. We had 60 the first night. And we just floored them all because the speakers were real dynamic. You know? We had one lady come in and talk about what breed of bird you should be using in the area and where you can get them from. Next guy come up there and we talked about alternative feeds. Don't have to buy feeds from the mainland. In fact, he talked a lot about soldier flies. Then you had a CJNF teacher talk about how to make your fluorine and your compost inside of the chicken house so your neighbors don't get all pissed off at you on the order. And the last guy came in there and talked about the regulations. Yeah? If you want to raise chickens in Honolulu, this is what the regulations are, and this is what you're going to have to do. And then the next day, we implement what we learned by building a chicken house together. So during the chicken house, when we were building them, I was over there, and there's this lady sitting next to me, and she was drilling, and she was making all kinds of mistakes with her drill, you know, but it was a learning experience for her. I've never been on a drill like this first time. And then, you know, she kept asking questions, kept asking questions. So at the end of the workshop, I said, well, what, are we going to build one of these chicken houses at your place? And she gave me her card. And I looked at the card and I almost fell over, because she was the superintendent for the Department of Education for the west side of the island. She said, I don't know what you got here, Mike, but I have never gone to a workshop where you get the community, the school, and all the people in the surrounding area working together for a common goal for sustainability in Hawaii. I want your name, I want your date of birth, and I want your Hawaiian Airlines numbers, because we're going to fly you into Honolulu for Tuesday, that's this coming Tuesday, at Nanakuli High School, where we will have every single school in the state sitting in the auditorium. And I want you, Joe McGinn, David Wong, and Representative Woolley to talk about natural farming, how natural farming can have impact, not only in the school, but in the Department of Education for the STEM program. Okay, that's the initial thing. But what we're doing here is Hawaii, this island, leads the state in natural farmers. People such as Kaika has taken the risks, and she's figured out the system. Drake has started to do the scientific data with the microscope. Bruce is starting to see things in the soils, yeah. So we know there's something there, but we need to prove it out on a large scale, yeah. All of our work, all of our people are all 8x10 backyard guys spraying, yeah. To get them to the commercial farm, which Dana is trying to do, it takes a little bit of more scientific data to get to the next point. Because you cannot just sit in on a workshop and the guy tell you, oh, go try it, because you find out what works and then you come back and tell me. That cannot happen in a commercial setting. When a question comes from the crowd, you got to be able to answer. So Drake, Chris Strong, they are actually doing it, yeah, and they've been doing it for so long that they can actually answer the questions now. Before we were shooting in the dark. Master Cho told us it takes us 3 years because you learn in the system. At the end of 3 years, once you master the system, then you natural farming. But for the first 3 years, you're gonna make all kinds of mistakes. And sure enough, we made a lot of mistakes. You know? We had the machine in trouble one time because the guy put contaminated soil in the program. Right? We learned that system, and University of Ohio helped us solve the problem. We pinpointed where the soil came from. Don't use this soil. Turn that machine up, turn that boiler on, and sterilize everything inside there. Kill everything you get in there from now on, because you do not want to transmit pathogenic material, especially guys who are planting ginger, yeah? Because that's what happened. They spread that IMO in the field, and next thing you know, the whole field turned yellow because he spread the disease. Why? Because he never cooked IMO long enough. So that's
So I'd like to get back to what
the
you're
cattle.
in this project.
Okay, the cattle, yes, we can. Okay, this is the challenge you're gonna have. Is one, are you planning to make money on the cattle?
Me?
Our data
Is that about me
shows.
personally?
Yeah,
No, I'm not.
okay. But if you're not, and if it's gonna be just for home use, yes, you can.
Well, no. I'm just saying that this isn't, I'm not leasing this for me personally. It's
So you're gonna lease
non-profit.
it out to a rancher to do this for you?
What's the economic goal? Is
The-
what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm saying. Because our data shows in the beef industry, if you do not have 600 cows, you will not make money in the state of Hawaii. That's why I'm asking you. How many acres you gonna have? How many animals you gonna be putting on the line?
Well, I'm hoping it's we, not me. I mean, that's what this meeting's all about. I mean, I'm not setting myself up as,
So that's the question I'm asking you. Is the cattle gonna be a revenue generator for the company?
definitely,
Okay.
without
So
a
then
doubt.
you gotta look at, because even me, I've got 100 cows a year on it. If I was on a research farm, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing because I'm not willing to make enough dollars because of what they pay us for the grass-fed beef in the state is very low. That's why everybody sends their calves to the mainland, because it's more lucrative to send a calf to the mainland than to wait 2.5 years to grow them out to get a grass-finished product, you know? So right now, I get $1.35 a pound carcass if I produce a choice or prime carcass coming off of grass. Anytime there's a deviation from that grade, the price goes down. If you go beyond 30 months of age, your price goes down on the carcass. So there's a lot of standards that you have to hit to make that $1.35. But we're competing with the mainland too. Yeah, you got New Zealand beef coming in. So we're in a pocket market. So when you try to sell it for a higher price, you get a lot of competition from the mainland. And that's what we have a hard time doing. Unless you can get into a fancy hotel, restaurant, or you sell it to some high-ranking chef, then you're starting to make a little bit of dollars. But other than that, If you think KTA is doing us a favor by selling their hamburger in the store, we cannot sell everything that we produce. I can sell every single steak, but there's a whole mess of other things that come out of that cow besides steaks. And I gotta be able to sell the volume of the hamburger, because otherwise I'm stuck with it.
Right.
So if you go into the store and you look at the price of beef, especially hamburger, the first 42% of that price goes to the store. So you knock out half the price. If you sell it for $4, you're down to $2.
I got it, but this isn't about that, though, because this is a research farm. This is a research project, this
Okay.
whole thing.
This is how much it costs me to run Nialani, okay? We run it close to $1 million a year. This research farm gonna pull out $1 million a year to run an experimental farm.
Whatever
That's
it
what you
takes.
got. That's what you gotta think, yeah.
I know.
$1 million a year is
The figure is irrelevant to me. Million, 2 million, 3 million. It's about, are we actually going to do it? Like, give it a go, and see if we can get the funding, or are we going to go? Well, hold on a minute. Or are we going to go? Oh well, it's too difficult. See, to me, that's where it is.
It's not difficult, yeah. You can do anything. Like Monty Richards tells us, farming, you can do anything. Might be a little bit hard, might cost a little bit money, but you can do it. There's no such thing as no can do. The thing is everybody willing to put in the time, the effort, the long hours? Because you guys don't know what natural farming, when we first started, Kaika knows, because we started from ground zero. And Drake knows how much time and effort it took to get us to this point, where finally people are starting to turn their head. Right? When we first started out, everything was snake oil. These guys don't know what they're doing. You know, this is how the piggery started. Okay? We put the piggery in, the guy told me, oh, this is all snake oil. So put the piggery in, and the guy stopped. This thing, no more scientific data. Now we get the scientific data. Oh, this thing not certified. Now the thing is certified. They're going, holy smokes, this thing is solid. Then we got a big write-up in a newspaper. Oh, state piggery in Waiwa. But I don't go after the university. That's a university project. The university rubbed my nose in this piggery for a long time. But now, they're going, whoa, this thing is solid, because it's blasting off in the mainland. I'm getting calls from all over the world right now on this piggery. But we have to pay our dues to get them started. Just like this farm. That's what I'm asking you, Clive.
I've
Are
already,
we willing to pay our dues to get this thing going?
well, I already have paid my dues to get this thing going, because I spent 16 years doing this totally off the wall thing. But many people told me, you can't do that, because it's not cost effective, you're not going to make enough money. And they were right, and I knew they were right. I never argued with them, because I can't compete. I sell taro for $1.50 a pound, and it's not worth it in terms of money. I've had to work in the shop, do construction, consulting, whatever, to subsidize it. So I'm fully aware of how difficult it is and challenging it is
What I'm
to make
saying
something
is,
pay. But hold on a second. So, but I knew that I had to do it. It wasn't, shall I do it or not? Well, I got to do it, because I got to do it to get the credibility, so that I'm not sitting somewhere saying, well, this and this and this, and I didn't actually do it. Put in, like you said, the thousands of hours and the long hours and the work and everything. So I'm really in tune with that.
what I'm saying is, what we do, we gotta look, because, yeah, we can do it as a lifestyle, yeah, but when it comes down to everything, especially in Hawaii, you gotta run them like a business.
Right.
And if your business not making money, you're not gonna go no place. I'm telling you right now.
I agree. And that's
So
what
that's why I'm telling everybody in this room, we do this project, gotta be everybody's hands in. No just come when a thing looks good and when the thing gets hard, everybody pull out. We gotta just stick together through this project through.
Outcomes, what your desired outcomes are from this conversation.
from the conversation.
Yeah.
The
But
desired
then-
outcome is that the maximum number of people in this room continue to be interested in the project, in the learning, creating the learning side. I mean, that's the top priority.
Any other next steps that you're wanting?
Next step,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. Well, I think next step, I'd be looking for you, Dana,
Yeah.
to help organize that.
Yes.
Just to bring it back to right now, like I said yesterday, I almost cancelled this, so I'm kind of going downhill a little bit with my energy and my ability to really think clearly. So, but that's all right, and continue to ask whatever.
Those are
I-
my only questions.
I really need to head out, so I just wanted to have a chance to share my vision for what I thought. And fully in alignment with what everybody has said, and I'm really excited about the project. Myself, personally, I feel like my vision is more for an educational facility, a place where we can process things like the poultry, the meat, the stuff like that, having a place where we can teach permaculture classes, where we can teach people about how to make IMOs, and it would be more of a fully functional facility where everybody can also generate their own income and put their own skills into it so that it supports itself. So that, you need a place to be able to teach, to process, to learn, to teach people how to make the foods and how to, process them and how to do all that stuff. And so that's kind of more where I see myself developing, writing grants and things like that, trying to get funding for such a facility and to procure the land that we would need to do it. And so I want to continue to work with all of you and see how we can work together and what each of your needs would be for such a facility, for something that we could do together so that everybody could teach and could learn from that. So it's kind of where I see my part in it, and I'd be really happy to have follow-up conversations with anybody who sees their part in that vision as well, so that I can get a better understanding and how we can work together.
And where that facility would be, in my vision, is on the lava out here somewhere out in the open.
Yeah.
And then very close to the project.
Yeah.
To the agricultural learning site.
Ideally, in my head, I want the place directly across from the mailboxes. It's a beautiful flat land. It would be really easy to work with. I would love to hear from anyone around here who knows the person who owns the property, because that's really like the step I want to take first, is going that route, having the discussion, seeing what we could work out, because I've had my eye on that ever since I came to Kapoho. I've always felt really drawn to something is going to happen there.
And I think Lono can help us with that.
That would be fantastic, because I really feel like that would be a phenomenal spot. It's right on the Red Road, it's easy to get to, and it's right in a central location for all of us. We drive past it every day. So to be able to get people out here and not have them driving down dirt roads that are bumpy and everything, and also have access to a central location would be great. So that's where I'm seeing myself with all of this, and I'm really excited to meet all of you and have a chance to get to know you all a little bit.
Cool.
It's been really great.
You can find out the landowner at the tax office,
That is great.
if you can't help you first. But I know that there's other kinds of animals, would there be other options that wouldn't be as expensive or
I
smaller?
would really look at goats,
We're definitely going to have goats.
because goats, you can put more animal units on the land that you want, and the goats, you can generate an income.
They don't like elephant grass though.
Sheep, okay.
Sheep,
The-
goats,
The cattle are the ones that like the elephant grass,
The sheep
and the
like
donkeys, and the horses. Anyway, all of the animals. I don't want to exclude any animals.
You want to be inclusive of
Yes.
everything I hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clive.
can you
So that, she was checking in with me about that. There,
Hold on, let's wait until there's only one person talking. Wait.
Okay, thanks.
says taking notes of this meeting, and so we will make sure that each person gets a copy of the notes, because a lot has been said, and so. And, oh, I'm sorry, were you guys?
She was just talking, but we were waiting for them to stop. Go ahead.
So as I hear the project, several things are going through my head. One is, I was really impressed with Master Cho's presentation of what he called the Korean natural farming mini farm, which hasn't gotten a lot of airplay. Like when I went on tour to Korea, I got to see all these commercial ventures. And so what we are is a transitioning farm towards a mini farm. And he talks about a family being able to have, a prescribed number of chickens and a prescribed number of pigs and a prescribed number of cattle and on a certain size land and how they could manage that. But I also have a different passion, which is the ahu pua'a. To me, the way the Hawaiians interfaced with their land had everything to do with the ownership of it, which was they didn't own it. They had more of a, what seems to me is if I was a person and I found myself living right here, well, you asked the mountain, what does a person do and how do they manage resources where they are right there? So it's truly integrated system, and it involves a lot of community more than just the family unit that natural farming saw in their mini farms. So I guess we're kind of what we're looking to demonstrate or create for ourselves is that hybrid of but of having a prescribed social unit, probably 30 to 50 people is what I have gathered from several lookings into it, where they would manage a certain range of land together. And I think it would be a multi-species kind of arrangement. And inside of that would be the mandala of life, the pasture grazing, because the animals are just such a, what I've seen here in this part of the world as people embark on their permaculture is they can either only manage the animals or the plants. But at some point they go, uncle, it's just too costly, too much time, just you've got to give your life. And so hardly can you find a permaculture that finally integrates them. And yet it's the ultimate challenge. It needs to be, is the organic, it's what you said. And I think the only way to do that is to somehow stabilize the people culture around that nugget. And what makes it difficult to contemplate that is code, it's not legal. I know that they have this, Clive, or not Clive, Graham has, he has some inroads with the county and with the state to kind of make some, yes, Graham Ellis, with alternative communities. But I think out here to really get the people power, man, you got animals, they don't have pasture, they're dying. When you have to sell them off, you have to take loss, you have to go out there and fix the fencing. It's a reality, reality that makes the project boy, do you need buy-in, and you can only donate your time to the point that you can until you can't. And so the animals aren't as forgiving as the garden. The weeds, God bless their souls, who wants to kill them all? They save my butt all the time. I am not there in my garden, and who takes care of it for me? The weeds, until I come back and I can start again. But with the animals, you lose them and they get sick, and it's a real big undertaking. It would I think need a community of people kind of organizing it and living together. It really helps to kind of share the land you're living on, so you can respond to it in tune and in timing and appropriate scale. And so I would be, and as I was talking to, was it Layla a little bit, I was, I'm more inspired by the commercial agriculture that's more based in smaller units and she was just saying how friggin' productive she can be just as one family. You can really feed, and the most of the world's food is produced by smaller farmers and agriculturalists who they market out that way. So I think that's where I'm gonna be pulled in conversation to see if, I mean, I want this probably as much as you. I've been 20 years looking at those papai fields going, I want it to stop, but I'm not gonna give them a hard time because I don't have the solution. Just like you, I'm like, my life will be finding the solution, and then making it happen, and then making what people wanna take it. So, I want it to happen so badly, but it's really gonna come down to what Mike says. It's gonna come down to a spreadsheet that says how many hours, how many people, how much money, and then so that it perpetuates itself. I don't know who can do that work.
Well, you know, I think that that's a conversation, like, those are details that we'll get into later, I feel like, whereas right now, it seems like it's a good time to think more about, like, the overall goal of what we want to happen here, and you know, what pieces we all play, or, you know, what we could contribute. And just really briefly, I have looked at some grants. I found 2 grants already that look promising. For one is those details don't matter, but there's great potentials for grants, especially if it's a collaborative project. So generally speaking, starting small and building up is a good thing. But one of the bottom lines I think we got to think about here is biochar. If we're going to be on cinder, you know, the soil will just, you know, it's always going to be working its way through. So if we have a way to get biochar in there, the microbes will lock in. I know a number of you are very busy, and so hopefully we can get something set up so that we can